Everybody keeps talking about saving democracy while moving like a college football team, stealing signs before the snap. That's the part that I can't stop looking at, because every time regular people start asking simple questions, not racist questions, not extremist questions, just human questions, suddenly the conversation turns theatrical.
I want you to listen carefully to what Crystal Matthews is about to say, and I want you to pay attention to the strategy. Forget the slang and the accent and the chaos, but focus on the strategy. She is giving us the cheat code. This is the part that Democrat politicians do not want you to examine. So take a look at the clip right here.
Some secret sleepers. Like, we need them to run as the other side, even though they for our side. And we need them to win. Right. We need people to run as Republicans in these local elections. And this is the only way you're going to change the dynamics in South Carolina. We can battle them in public all day. As long as we know we're working for the same goal, for me, I feel like, y'all, we need sleepers. When we get enough of us in there, we can wreak havoc for real from the inside out. Then we can flip some from the inside out. We got to take back some of these seats, especially in these local elections. We need a group of sleepers. And I still got to struggle to raise money for my campaign. Where the is my black people with money? I don't care about no dope money. Give me that dope boy money. Where the duffel bag boys? Find you somebody in your family that don't even know you donating to my campaign and put that under their name. Honestly, these ain't the same type of black people that I grew up around. I don't recognize these black ones. So I black because I don't understand the type of black that they are. Now, can I talk intelligently? I can move in all kind of circles, but I'm I love black people. I feel safest around my people. I'm very much in a lot of ways, but I know how to turn it off and turn it on. You know, I know how to be in certain spaces. You know, you got to be able to turn it off and turn it on. We need some folks that can wear all black at night and take their yard signs down when they sleeping. We ain't got to make a bunch of noise about it. We ain't gotta go live about it. Just don't say just like when somebody drop money and you pick it up. You pick that up and keep walking.
Did y'all hear that? She just said that they need secret sleepers. For the uninitiated, a secret sleeper is a person that runs as a Republican, even though they are really working for the other side. She said that this is how you change the dynamics in South Carolina. This woman talked about taking back seats from the inside out. She started talking about how she needs money. And she's talking about she don't even care about where the money comes from. She want that dope money.
Now, if you're somebody who's been watching this channel for a while, you know that clip isn't new here. But because I have to show a broader picture here, I wanted to start with this. Shout out to April as well. But did y'all catch how it was casually said, though, right? Not whispered, not hidden, not exposed by a hidden camera in some dark parking garage. Dude said it like somebody explaining how to season chicken. She did. I know I said dude, but she did. Register as Republicans. That's not even the craziest part, though. The craziest part is realizing how many people probably heard that and still mentally filed it under nothing to see here. Because modern politics, man, and train people to only react emotionally when the correct side tells them to. And notice something else. The same people who say voter ID, laws are dangerous, the same people who say election integrity conversations are offensive are perfectly comfortable talking about strategic identity camouflage when it benefits them. That's why normal people feel politically homeless right now. Not because they became radicals, because common sense started feeling rebellious. And speaking of emotional language, I want you to watch how fast, redistricting, I always say that word and fumble. Redistricting conversations go from map to civil rights documentaries.
I want to start also by saying that just yesterday, I received a letter from the Speaker of the House of Tennessee removing me from every committee that I serve on as a member. And not just me, but every black elected official in Tennessee has now been removed from their committees. This is what we mean when we're facing a new system of Jim Crow inequality. Damn. This is the stakes. And so I see the sign that says, we will not go back. And we've chanted, we will not go back. And when I walked off the House floor last Thursday, I walked out and I burned a Confederate flag outside the chamber to send a message that we will not go back to the times in which our folks were met with billy clubs and the blast of fire hoses for trying to exercise their equal participation in our democracy. We will not go back to times in which we had days in jail cells and nights of bomb threats for trying to be equal citizens in this multiracial democracy. We will not go back.
Yeah. See, this is where things get slippery, because now every disagreement has to become historic evil. Not unfair, not partisan, not aggressive. No. It has to immediately become Selma with Wi-Fi. And listen, I'm not even saying people can't be upset over maps. Both parties have fought over maps forever. But when everything becomes Jim Crow 2.0, eventually people stop hearing actual warnings because the vocabulary got stretched a little too far. A little too far. And here's the deeper issue nobody says out loud correctly. When politicians compare modern America to the ugliest historical chapters, eventually young black voters start subconsciously believing they live in permanent danger instead of permanent opportunity. That changes how people see the country, how they see police, how they see neighbors, how they see themselves. Fear is profitable politically, especially when your entire movement runs on emotional emergency alerts. Now, I want you to watch this next clip carefully, because the same conversation, you okay? Yeah, the same conversation certainly changes depending on the zip code.
Now, you also talked about Connecticut and Massachusetts, but in all due respect, they didn't have a long history of Jim Crow.
What's your question?
Okay, we talked about Connecticut and Massachusetts dealing with their Republicans and Democrats. But when you look at Louisiana in the South, we normally deal with Section 2 issues. We have a problem in the South because we've had to deal with slavery and Jim Crow. We don't have to deal with Connecticut and Massachusetts because they were not slave states. Is that correct?
That's true. They were not slave states.
Okay.
And there it is. That little moment right there is why people are exhausted. So gerrymandering is apparently a national moral crisis until New England gets mentioned. Then suddenly history becomes complicated. That's the game. When southern states do it, it's oppression. When deep blue strongholds do it, it's tradition. When Republicans gain advantage, democracy dies. When Democrats lock down regions for decades, everybody clears their throat and changes the subject. And people notice that inconsistency faster now because social media ruined political installation. Back in the day, politicians could say one thing in one room and another thing somewhere else. And everybody got screen recordings. Everybody got clips and timelines. That's why these old political talking points sound worn out. Not because people became just smarter overnight. No shade. People just finally got access, to the full conversation. But this next clip, oh, yeah. This one right here explains why emotional pressure keeps getting aimed specifically at Black Americans.
We have to decide at some point that we must sacrifice. I hate that we have to ask this of them, but this is where we are in this country right now if you're paying attention. And I've seen some people push back and say, oh, we're asking them to give up too much money. The people who are making the money are the schools, and they're making it on the backs of our children. Understand that fewer than 2% of our children go to the draft, basketball or football, once they've played at these schools. So a sacrifice must be made so we can get our power back, because it is bigger than sports. It's about power.
These are people who were 18, 19, and 20 years old. So I think it sounds ridiculous to say, oh, my God, these athletes are too young today, when folks damn sure weren't too young who were on the front lines in the 60s.
We have to decide.
This mindset right here deserves way more attention than it gets. Notice how sacrifice is always requested from the same demographic, not politicians, not media personalities, not university executives, cashing checks, young athletes, teenagers. Families trying to escape poverty. And somehow the burden of saving the community always lands on the kid with the scholarship offer. That's heavy. Especially when most of these families are just trying to survive long enough to finally breathe financially. And I think a lot of black voters, especially younger ones, are starting to question why political loyalty conversations always sound emotionally one-sided. Because nobody tells immigrant communities that, they owe permanent political obedience. Nobody tells wealthy suburbs that, they must sacrifice. But black Americans, every election cycle turns into a moral test. Morality test. That pressure is getting old. And now, here comes the clip that ties this all together. Because while everybody was screaming about maps, there were actual people drowning.
We're the freaking enemy, and I'm tired of it. I want you to look at this. This is not political theory. It's not a hashtag. And it's not a staged press conference. This is where my family lays their head. This is Texas. More importantly, Kerrville, Texas. These are real people, real homes, real screams in the dark, real families watching a 29-foot wall of water erase entire pieces of their lives by the Guadalupe River. And while mothers searched for their children, while fathers tried to pull loved ones from the raging currents, while bodies floated through the floodwaters and families prayed to God for mercy, these filthy Texas Democrats fled the state over congressional maps. They abandoned their posts, America. Don't you ever forget that. And while Texans drowned, some of them laughed. They posed for the camera. Jasmine Crockett smiled. Some treated it like a political field trip. Don't you forget that. Because they constantly lecture America about compassion and saving democracy. Yet, when ordinary people, just like me, were suffering in Texas, Democrat politics came first. Not rescue, not unity, not the people, but power. And the hypocrisy gets even uglier. It was the same politicians that scream endlessly about representation in the southern states, but absolutely say nothing about all 21 congressional seats across New England effectively being locked away from people just like me. Millions of us. Nothing. Not a doggone peep. Total silence. Why? Because to them, representation only matters when it benefits Democrats, their ideology, their LGBTQ plus trans, their way of living. The American nuclear family, a father that loves his wife, raising their children in a love-filled home. We're the freaking enemy, and I'm tired of it. And if black conservatives rise, if American conservatives rise, if a man refuses to stay politically obedient to these Democrats, if he thinks independently, if he challenges the Democrat control, they try to erase him. That's the contradiction. That's the game they want to play with you, America. Those people in those floodwaters were not Democrats or Republicans in that moment. They were all Americans. And they deserved leaders who focused on saving lives instead of fleeing like a punk the states for political theater. Never forget what you are seeing in this footage. When Texas cried, when agony, suffering, and hopelessness converged upon them, politicians played games. Democrats played with their lives. And over 100 of them now are in the grave.
Now, that clip right there, that's why emotional messaging is starting to collapse on itself. Because once real tragedy enters the frame, political theater starts looking real small, fast. Families losing children, homes underwater, bodies being recovered, and politicians are outside turning congressional maps into Broadway performances. That disconnect matters. not politically, humanely. See, average Americans can survive disagreement. They can survive elections. They can survive hearing opinions they hate. But they're just getting tired of his performance. Everything is becoming a symbolic battle, historic oppression. Everything becomes a staged moral emergency while regular life keeps punching ordinary people in the mouth. Rent still due. Flood water still rising. Groceries still high. Families still stressing. Half of the country talking like social media, hashtags are more important than reality. That's why the tone keeps changing. Not because people suddenly became evil. Not because everybody switched ideologies overnight. People are just starting to trust their own eyes again. And honestly, man, this might be the biggest shift happening in America right now. Not left versus right, not, race versus race. It's scripted thinking versus lived experiences. So if you made it to the end of this video, I want you to type in the comment section something that we probably definitely used before. Type in reality check. Yeah. Y'all be safe. Go check on somebody today. You can quite literally be saving their life. Peace.